Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff and welcome to the final video in our series looking at the range of Infini sanders. So yes, we're looking at the Matadors, which is the final sanding system from Infini that we've not looked at yet. So just to quickly recap, we've looked at the glass ones, we've looked at the soft sanders, we've looked at these larger sanders, the zebra sanders and the sponge sanders. And these three complement each other. This one not so much. And this set does what none of these three can do, and that is get into small spaces. This is really your equivalent of the emery board. Now, all through the videos that we've been looking at these sanders, I've kept coming back to this being my sort of measure of excellence when it comes to sanding, because I've used these for many years. They're really cheap, and one of the advantages of them is you can cut them, as you can see here, into all sorts of shapes, so you can get into small nooks and crannies, and they're generally a lot thinner than any sanding stick. So I still use them a lot, but these challenge that. So what do you get in the Matador system? Well, you get these photo etched stainless steel sanding substrates. So there's two triangles and then the rest of them are rectangular, and the rectangular widths go from 2, 3, 5 and 10 millimeters wide, and then your triangles, you've got a wider one and then a more slender one for getting into all sorts of different spaces. And how they work is they work on the basis of sticky back sanding sheets. So when you buy it, you get one of these, which is a pack of all the sandings. Let me just pull them out. So we have 3,000, 5,000, these might not be in order, 1,000, 7,000, 600, 2,000, 800 and 400. So pretty much covering the full range of grits that we've seen across the broader range of sanding products. And because they're self-adhesive, you can see what you do is you just cut them out in the shape to fit your sanding stick, like so. And as a result, this is going to last quite some time because you've got quite a bit of material here. You're taking a small amount away every time, and you can see I've used all of them a little bit, and we've just taken tiny amounts away. So yeah, you just stick it on and then you have it. You can use both sides, which is really handy because you can have a different grit on each side, or you can just put it on one side, which makes them thinner. Now, if you have it on both sides, I generally have all mine using both sides. You end up with something that is about the same thickness as an emery board. Okay, so even with two sides on, they're really thick. The disadvantage of having two sides on is if you're getting into a small space in a hole, you're sanding on both sides. So unlike an emery board, you can actually remove some of the material. Let's say this one needs sorting out anyway. You can remove some of the material and it just peels off. If I can grab it, come on. There we go. Leaving the adhesive behind, but you get the idea. You can pull it off and you can just have sanding material on one side. So gives you a bit of flexibility. As you can see, sticks on really well. So you don't have issues with it coming off while you're sanding. In fact, so much so that it's a bit of a pain to get off. But there you go. You can see when I say a bit of a pain, it's delaminated from the adhesive, but the adhesive, because it's on a stainless steel, it just rolls off. There we go. Yeah, you could clean this up with a swipe with a cotton swab of Mr. Tool Cleaner or something like that, but there's not really any need. You just cut out some more and stick it on. So yeah, so you get a nice thin substrate, and then you put your sanding paper of choice on. Now, the real frustrating thing actually is that you have to really decide what grits do you want on each one, because you can't have all the grits on each one. So you tend to put the grits on as you start using them for the job at hand. What I did initially was I did finer grits on these wider ones and coarser grits on these smaller ones. And that worked for me initially, but now it gives me a little bit of a problem because sometimes I need to swap them. But it's a really flexible system that allows you to get into all sorts of tiny nooks and crannies that even cutting this down and making it as thin as this, which is possible, I have done it, it's not as nicely trimmed and as this. You get a rough edge on an emery board. So this is actually better. And I almost don't like saying it, but it is true. They're really, really flexible, and they complement the wider range because you've got all the grits that you've got in the other range, but you can get into such tiny spaces. So I think they're actually a really great tool. I've been using them now for about 12 months, and I don't use them a lot, but what I find, because you know, a lot of times I can get in with a sanding stick or I'm scraping and then I don't need to. But when you've got tricky things, I'm thinking landing gear, for example, where you've got lots of different shapes and tiny areas like that. You know, it's really handy for getting in on these little edges. So yeah, I think it's a great little tool, and I don't do recommendations, but what I'll say is when I look at the wider Infini range, and then I think about other sanding sticks that I've got from other people. So these are Ultimate ones, these are Flory ones. Yeah. What I basically find is I use these the most, and it's only when I feel I can't use these that I go to somebody else's. So these have become, over the last 12 months, my default sanders. So, I mean, there's lots of innovation in sanding sticks over the last few years, like shapes that imitate the motion of sanding, for example, which is why this is this shape. And it works really well when you're sanding in a big area, but when you're not, it's not really, you know, giving you any advantage. The thickness of these sponges is great. You can do some nice shapes, and it's nice and thin, so that's really, really handy. And the same with this, you can get into small places, whereas you don't with the Matador system have any real polishing. I suppose 3,000, I think, or 5,000 being which is this one here, being the smoothest one, but it's still very, very fine by anybody's standards. And the Flory ones, well, I find they break apart and they crumple. And even if they were still making them, I wouldn't be buying them again. But yeah, of all the sticks, I tend to only come back to them when I need something a bit more slender. And that's where these come in. These can get in even to places where these can't, because look, I can go down to that and look at the difference in thickness. So these that I've told you gave me an advantage over them, they bring you the advantage back. So the fact that I keep going back to them, the fact that I keep using them, and that these are sort of on the bench as a substitute when I feel I need it, tells you everything I need to know. The only exception to that is the glass ones. So of all of the Infini range, this is the only one that I would think long and hard about. Do you actually want? Partly because they're expensive, and partly because I don't see that they give you a real advantage over other sanding products. They do polish up the plastic very nicely as you sand, and I'm not saying that they're a bad tool, but for the cost, for the outlay, do they really give you an advantage over all of these others? And I personally don't think so. So these I would put as a standalone. They don't really complement the others. They don't do something that the others don't do particularly. So I'm not going to go as far as to say they're gimmicky, but I don't see the real advantage to them. So if I had my time again, I wouldn't buy these. But the others, I love them all. And even though I still like this and I still like to cut the size down, old habits die hard. Actually, if I'm honest, the Infini range covers everything that buying lots of different brands to cover your sanding needs. They do that in these 4 systems. So, you could start out with those, the soft sanders, and that would cover most of your jobs with the Matadors. Then probably you want to add the sponges, and then finally these, but only if you do big jobs. If you're doing large scale stuff, 132, 124 aircraft, 1350, 1200 ships, that sort of scales. If you're doing those, then these, they do big areas nice and quickly, and they're firm enough to be nice and flat. But for most modelers, that will cover everything that you need. And then the sponges are a nice addition for things like leading edges of wings and fuselages and that sort of stuff. They're really handy for that type of thing. So I was asked the question, what sort of models should you use these on? Well, these are suitable for all models. They do all the sort of generic plastics, the styrenes that you'll get in most plastic model kits. Some of these, because of the quality of how they manufacture this, what do they call it? It's made by I can't remember what it is. There we go. High voltage electrostatic induction. It means that the grit doesn't come off and wear down quickly. So they're even good for things like brass and that sort of stuff. So cleaning up photo etch, cleaning up scratch build parts made out of brass sheet, brass tube, that sort of stuff. They'll do all of that sort of stuff. So it depends on your sort of modelling, what scale you do, what of these that you need. But I would say that they all complement each other. They all do something that the others don't do one way or another. If I was to say there's one set that you should buy, I would probably say this is your start point, because it covers most of your needs most of the time. And complement that with one of these that you can cut down. But when your budget extends to it, get the Matadors so that you can get into all those nooks and crannies. This will last you a long time, so it's not a continuous outlay. And then only when your budget allows, expand it up to the full range of sanding sticks. And again, it depends on your modelling. If you do lots of 172 scale modelling, you might find that you don't have a need for these larger ones. So that's my final thoughts. That's the introduction into the Matadors. It's a nice system that complements everything else. I generally think the Infini sanding products are the best products I've come across I haven't tried them all, but I have tried Ultimate, Flory, Flexifile, and these last better. They're easier to clean, they perform better, they don't clog like some of the others do, or certainly nowhere near as quickly, and they don't fall apart like others do. You know, the Flexifile ones rip and so on. So the only thing they don't really cover is the Flexifile tape system, which prevents you from putting flats on. But with the sponges, I think you sort of cover it. So one way or another, I can't think of a sanding system that does a sanding product that the Infini range doesn't cover. So I think they're a great product. I enjoy using them. They're my go-to brand of choice now. I don't do recommendations. They may not work for you. Depends on your style, what type of modelling you do. But I can't think of anything that I've ever done from a modelling perspective where I wouldn't want to use these. And I'm even finding now that I'm using this less and less. And to give you an idea, this is now 9 months old, and look at how clean it is. It's hardly used, and that's because of the Matadors. So there you have it. That's my final thoughts on the Infini range of sanders. I hope that's been helpful over the course of the last few weeks when we've been covering this off, and that you've enjoyed my insights into these products. They're great products. So thank you very much for watching. As always, if you've enjoyed the videos, please hit the like. That helps other people who may benefit from this video find it. And the channel is self-funding, and we buy these products from the revenue made from the channel. And if you'd like to donate so we can review more products, then you can hit my PayPal link below, and 100% of everything that is donated goes straight into the channel for more kits and more products. You enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now. Hi, and thanks for watching. You can support the channel by hitting the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss any content that I put out. Model Kit Stuff is a self-funded channel, and I don't do membership or Patreon or buy me a coffee. So if you'd like to further donate to the channel and ensure the cameras keep rolling and the content keeps coming, then you can consider making a donation through my PayPal. You will find a link to that in the text below. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you soon.